Afternoon and welcome to the BEBC meeting of Tuesday, May 27th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Halkidiki people. Specifically the Kwamutsun village. The Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside Kwatsun, Malahat, Sabasat, Halal, Penelakut, Stamanis, and Liaxan peoples who have cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the unceded territories of their land as we work together to lift up all our hahas minim. Just one thing I'd like to say before we start. This is the last BEBC meeting of the school year. So thank you to all the staff for making things go smoothly here for me. And thank you to Morris, our technical guy. Make sure things go well for us. Appreciate all your hard work. And thanks to all who've come to present to us during the year. You've actually made our meetings fun. A lot more fun than they are. So thank you very much. Motion to adopt the agenda, please. Trustee Thorne. Favor. Okay, minutes of the April 22nd, 2025 BEBC meeting. Board of Education adopt the minutes of April 22nd, 2025 Board of Education Business Committee meeting. Trustee Strachan.
I have a question at the right time about the minutes.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Question?
Yeah, so the minutes are fine. It's more around, and I know this is how they reported in. I just wanted to flag again the land acknowledgement from Paulson and from Lake Cowichan. Both refer specifically to Tabasset, but it's also Cowichan as well. So it's, so I'm wondering how we address this. Like, it's in the minutes, that's how they, and it's recorded as how they present it, but I just wanted to flag again that we need to address this as well. So
My suggestion that board chair have a meeting with Cowichan tribes to make sure that they can verify the terms so that we're not crossing borders or stepping on toes.
Okay. So action list. Petitions or delegations. We have Crofton Elementary.
While we figure that out, that's okay. I just want to say good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Merritt. I'm the principal at Crofton Elementary. I have with me today two incredible student leaders, Rhea and Cohen. They are both grade 6 students at Crofton. They have been with us since kindergarten, all the way through to grade 6. So I've asked them to come and to share today, after our video, a little bit about their experiences at Crofton relating to our FESL goals. And I'm hoping you guys will have some questions for them when we're all done. So we're going to start today with a little video that involves a bunch of our students. And there is closed captioning because there's a few times when our little people are a little hard to hear. So I'm hoping that will work for us.
Crofton crew, let's make it clear.
We have big buddies, and I think we're the little buddies.
Ocean breeze and sunny skies, with Rumpelstiltskin keeping it fly. Jump, jump, bounce to the beat. Little pigs tapping their dancing feet.
I'm most excited about next year school. Because I'm gonna have I might have a little buddy. The concert.
Tell me more. What was your job in the concert? What were you doing?
Dancing and singing.
Big ideas, building dreams without any fears. Jump, jump out. so cool.
I really like doing concerts. We did the Walking on Sunshine one, and I really liked how all of my friends and me were singing together, and everyone was watching. It was really fun.
Proud, proud. Jump, jump, bounce to the beat. Little pigs tapping their dancing feet. Kindergarten to grade 6, strong at Crofton, we all belong.
Being a wood tutor to me kind of means you're respecting the rules and teaching people how to behave properly. And when they're misbehaving, you can kind of like teach them how to treat situations properly. So you breathe out, you breathe in, and then you hold. And then you breathe out, breathe in,
Concert, let's make it loud.
breathe in for 3, hold
Crofton kids always make us
My
proud.
favorite thing about what we've done is going outside and singing Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Ocean waves crashing. Let's make it loud. Crofton kids always make us proud. Yeah. Jump, bounce to the beat. Little pigs tapping their dancing feet. Kindergarten to grade 6, strong at Crofton, we all belong. From the day you enter to the day you leave. Ocean views, Crofton Elementary. Kindergarten to grade 6, it's so elementary. It's like reading and writing, and it's like numeracy. All while being kind to your neighbor, yeah. It's kinda sweet to have your kid enrolled in Crofton Elementary, where they teach you what you need. Crofton Elementary, and you got to learn the reading, the writing, and numeracy, all while being kind to your neighbor, yeah, it's kinda sweet. From the day you enter to the day you leave. From the day you enter to the day you leave. Ocean views, Crofton.
We usually come in, do silent reading, then our morning map, then our agendas. Then we go down to the carpet and do our reading list, and then at joke, then we have snacks. I looked at the ones, and then I started sounding them out. And when I tried one, my teachers helped me to learn to read and write is writing the letters, and then we have to copy them, and sometimes we write words. That I get to learn and have fun here. It's a lot of math and good math to learn about. My favorite thing to learn is to learn math and know my numbers, because I don't know how to count but to 20.
I really like helping people, and I learned that I like to do that.
We have some really nice kids here. You could make friends easily and have fun. How kind people are here. because you can be kind to people. I think my favorite thing about school is learning and being kind.
Actually, we have some really cute kids. So we wanted to share a little bit about our FESL goal, which at Crofton Elementary, our one and only FESL goal is that all of our students leave grade 6 as proficient readers and writers. And so to do this, we have different tiers of support. So we're going to start, and I'm going to go through the different tiers, and Rhea and Cohen are going to share a little bit about their experiences. So at the classroom level, we've done a few things over the years. So Rhea, would you like to share?
In kindergarten and grade 1, I enjoyed learning how to read. It was made easy but fun at the same time. I learned to put things together. I would take a picture and would decipher what the letter or object in it started with. I would use that letter and look for other words that also started with it. I would practice reading words from what we were doing just to let words that I found in the book that day. I learned more words each day. It was very exciting and helpful. We also got to learn about heart words. It's where letters are in places that don't make sense. For example, TH or the magic E. We would put hearts under the part that doesn't follow the rule. Like very. The heart would go under the Y because it isn't consistently a vowel. And you would put blue boxes under the expected sounds or letters.
I like to read. Whenever I have a choice, I pick to read. Sometimes my teacher would put a book on my desk. If it was in a series and it wasn't the first one, I wouldn't read it because if I don't start at the first one, I won't know what's going on.
Want to share about word of the day?
And in my class, we do something called word of the day. At the end of the day, we pick a word that is spelled weirdly or is a unique word, and the teacher puts it up on paper and then puts it up on the wall, and we make it further and further around the room. We're almost all the way around, so I don't know what we're gonna do. And we put it in our agenda, and it becomes part of our word wall.
So Tier 2 support is more focused and goes beyond the classroom. So this year we did this through literacy families. So our grades 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5, 6 combined. We mixed the students together by looking at the district literacy screeners and identifying where the students needed some support. We pulled in our teacher librarian, our resource teacher, and our LA teachers to make the groups smaller so that they could focus in on those specific skills for those students. It allowed us to decrease the size of people or the size of the groups. So Ray and Cohen are going to share a little bit about what their family literacy groups were doing.
We focused on comprehension. In my group, we started with booklets on interesting topics like 3D printed cake. You started with reading the multiple choice questions. You had to pull sentences out of the text to help you answer them. You had to use your time wisely but also efficiently to pull information from the text. I find this process helps you to understand information between the lines.
Our group was focused on morphology. It has to do with parts of words. We looked at a lot of Greek words like bibliophile. Biblio means book, and phile means to love or something like that. So a bibliophile is a lover of books, and I consider myself a bibliophile. I like books.
A lot. Our final tier of support is about supporting individual students and readers. We have a strong resource and LA team that supports the students in the classroom, in small groups, and individual practice. So our team uses the district screeners and other assessments to monitor both the class and the individual progress and determine what the focus is going to be. Our primary grades this year, the primary focus has been around phonemic awareness, while our intermediates, there's been a greater focus on comprehension. And our data is currently showing that we'll be shifting to do a little more work around fluency in the coming months and next year. So finally, Rhea would like to share a little bit about her experience with young authors.
I had the opportunity to attend the Young Authors Conference, which I believe has been going on for around 30 years. It's an amazing program. We had the opportunity to create a story or poem. Then it was sent to the author that we would take classes with that day. On the day of the conference, we took a bus to VIU in Duncan, and it was incredible to meet all the authors. We had a class in the morning and the afternoon. First, we met in the auditorium. We learned about all the authors. In our classes, we received our writing feedback. We could read it to the class or not. We did some amazing writing exercises too. In one of the classes, we even got to keep a book written by one of the authors. At the end, we went to the high school across the street, and we met all the authors, and they each shared a piece of writing from their own literature. I even got to meet one of the authors that had written a book I previously read at Crofton Elementary.
So these are just some of the ways that we're working hard at Crofton to ensure that all of our students go on to be successful, proficient bibliophiles. So I'd like to thank Cohen and Rhea for joining me today for our presentation.
Questions, Mr. Thorne?
You know, every time youth come in this class, in this room, and talk about their school and what they're learning, you don't know how happy that makes me, because I think to myself, I'm always worried about our kids of tomorrow. But hearing the two of you speak, seeing the video that I just saw again, you've given me hope that we're going to have a better future because of leaders like you. And to Crofton teachers, principals, I say thank you.
Trustee Lise.
You are never too old to learn. So I've learned something today, that I am a bibliophile as well. So you taught me something that I did not know. So thank you. I just have one question for each of you. Now that you're getting ready to leave Crofton, it's a big time in your life. What are you most proud of in your time at Crofton?
I'm usually able to stay on time with my work unless I'm not there on school day. Then I have fun.
I'm most proud of probably all the things I've been a part of, because I've been in WITS, I've done the announcements, I've done lots of programs, as many as I can. Some days I even have too many things to count every day. But I'm most proud of how much I was able to fit in a week.
Awesome, thank you.
Trustee Schmidt.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you very much for bringing two very, very well-spoken students. So well done, kiddos. I have a question for you. When it comes to your reading groups, is there something more that you would like to have learned in your reading groups while you were there that you didn't quite get an opportunity to do? Like, is there anything else you would love to have done that you didn't get to do to help you become better readers?
Probably look over more books, and maybe done a mini novel study. I would have liked, because I like to explore different types of books and genres.
I don't know if this really counts into it, but why are scientific words so hard to spell?
Good question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all very much for coming. As I said, this is one of the most enjoyable things we do every month. So to all the teachers out of Crofton, thank you very much for all your hard work and continued going. And to our guests, thank you for coming.
Love your song.
That's pretty amazing, yeah. And the first one had to do with our spring concert. So if you're curious how Rumpelstiltskin and Jumping Pigs fit into it.
Super cool.
Totally made sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have George Bonner.
See you tomorrow.
That was amazing, and thank you for doing that piece. We wish that we had students, but we're way out in Mill Bay, and it's kind of hard to convince parents to bring some of their kids in, so we apologize for not having students, but
and I had about 200 of them just across the road most of the day today.
Exactly. But we do have a video at the end, which will hopefully highlight some of them. You want it on this side of me, or?
Whichever side you want.
have notes because I can't remember everything. So, ours, hopefully we'll be able to entertain you a little bit through our photos, but the video was just amazing, so thank you for that.
You're a hard act to follow, okay?
Yeah. Okay, so I think
Do you want me to do this one?
Sure.
I'm gonna do this
Thanks.
one.
Yeah, so our school profile, we are a rural community. Our population is 441 and we have 20 divisions. So as some of you may remember that we are transitioning from a K to 7 to a 3 to 7 school. And this year we were grade 1 to grade 7. A strong active pack group. We have our fun fair coming up this Friday. So if any of you are in the area, come on by.
4 to 7, come on down.
We have a wide range of economic background families and a very diverse population.
And a garden program as well.
So we were designed as a high school, and then of course it became a middle school, and now an elementary school. Our strengths at George Bonner, we have alternate spaces for lots of learning spaces. We have a sensory room for kids that need to move their bodies in big ways. So we have mats in there, huge teddy bears that they can, usually they like to play lava with all the mats and the teddy bears. So it gets them moving, gets your energy out and back into the classroom for learning. Our other strength is sense of belonging. We've been working really hard on sense of belonging over the last couple of years, and our environmental stewardship, as you saw with the gardening piece.
One of the pieces with that alternate spaces as well is, because we were at the middle and high school, is we have the foods room and the wood shop. So our grade 6s and 7s use that a fair bit, and we also get some of the career programs come in using the wood shop area, so the other kids get to see the wood shop and be in there as well.
And then our stretches, we have 2, literacy and then social emotional needs. Just having to learn what are the strategies that work with the different students, and what's right for one child may not be right for another. So we're just trying to figure that out, and the kids are trying to figure that piece out. So sense of belonging, we work very hard and connect and meet students at their level. Daily morning message encourages leadership, confidence building, social emotional well-being, and it's delivered by mostly our grade 5 and 6 students. Common language around the WITS program is used, and WITS means you walk away when you have a situation, or you can ignore the person that you're having the situation with, talk it out, or seek help. And the kids have gotten really, really good at knowing, need to use my wits, may not always follow through. So those are the pieces we're working with. We encourage all of the solving problems and situations by various cell programs that we use, CALM, EASE. The big one that we've been using this year has been the random acts of kindness. And next year we want to open up into the open parachute. So some of our classes have been dabbling in some of those lessons, and we're hoping that we can go school-wide for next year. Lots of sports clubs. You'll see felting happening. That's a mushroom that some of the girls have felted. So that happens once a week as part of our clubs at school. We have various adults who offer these programs, from EAs to our teachers to people that come in from the community. We did 2 plays during the year. There was Wizard of Oz, and then the winter one was just
The winter concert.
a winter concert with lots of singing.
But the really cool thing, especially after being there for a number of years, is watching those kiddos who came in, who would come in like this, and then all of a sudden they're there on stage, beaming, and having those opportunities to really shine in different areas, and seeing some of our kids in the sports programs who are natural athletes really step up and help some of our other kiddos who are coming in and trying sports for the first time. And really seeing the teamwork that was coming. There were some really neat things happening this year around that. Do you want to talk about the Zen Zone?
Oh yeah, the Zen Zone. That was brought about by our counselor, Susanna Longridge, and the Zen Zone is a tea house where kids that just can't figure out what they want to do during our lunch recess time, or they feel like they aren't connecting outside very well, so they go to the Zen Zone tea house, and there's games, coloring, drawing, and they're offered iced tea or a hot tea if they like. And it's just a space for them to meet other friends. And then also Susanna works with them in small groups. It helps to, you know, how's your day going? Trying to connect and help them solve maybe a situation they may be having that day, and just an ongoing work with another section of counseling, which is really wonderful.
Lots of leadership coming from very different group of kids in the Zen Zone as well, who really helped set it up and keep it going.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Susanna has to do much anymore because there's so many students that just take that piece on. We look at various data when we try to figure out what's going to be our next steps. So we look at our communicating student learning data, our FSAs, the literacy learning inventories, our CEL survey, student learning surveys that the ministry puts out, because we focus in on some key questions in that survey, and of course teacher observations, and then student voice. What are they saying? What's the information coming from the students? And then our school-based team information helps us to plan next steps, because we look at class reviews for each division and try to figure out where are the supports for that class and what's needed at Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3.
We're using a similar process in our class building coming up for the next year as well.
So our class reviews, so this little one, she built that poster on our Pink Shirt Day. And she put it together, it was her initiative, and then made sure there were smaller posters available for all over the school so that kids knew that when you are angry, these are the rules that you can follow. So, so our class reviews, that was a huge piece for her, because in her class review, we talked about what are some of the other things that are going on in that classroom and who are the kids that we can group together to help and support along the same lines as what this little one is going through. So it really helps us to figure out where we need to place our supports according to what the teachers bring forward in their class reviews.
And we have the single poster of this with these rules in almost every classroom now in the school as well. So it's when she's popping around and doing things, she sees her work up as well.
So you're probably thinking, okay, why are we showing district data? We really felt that as a George Bonner community, we need to let everybody know, you know, all the hard work that's going on, but also there's a lot going on in our building, and this kind of helps to explain some of that story. So children and youth in care, we have 12 students as we began with at the beginning of the year. Now we're down to about, what was it? 4 or 6? Six students, but we still need to remember that all those students that we began with, they still need the help and support, because the experience that they've lived doesn't just go away. So we need to keep that in mind. Students with disabilities and diverse needs, we have 71, and 24 are from Indigenous backgrounds that are designated, so of the 71. So I just want to make that connection to the district, the diagram. If you look at the children in care, there's 75 within the district, and we have 12. That's quite a huge number, and we need to make sure that we're caring for those students. And how do we do that is just amazing at all the supports that we have on site. Students with disabilities and diverse needs, that's the orange circle, and there's 578 in the district, and we have 71. That's huge, trying to figure out all those different diverse students and what's needed for them, and then the support that we receive from the district, as well as the support we have in the schools and the community. We're working really hard to make sure those student needs are being met. The Indigenous students is the blue circle. In the district, there's 1,015. We have 84, which 44 of those students come from the Malahat Nation. So again, we try to make those strong connections with all our Indigenous students, but because we have such a huge group coming from one area, we try to make sure that that connection and relationship is built strong. Our, oh yeah, there it is, I put it at the bottom. So in the middle, you'll see that white circle, and it says 24 in the district diagram. Well, we have, what that means is there's 24 that meet all 3 criteria. And in our school, we have 6. It's huge. So we really pay a lot of attention. We have school-based team meetings that happen twice a week so that we know what's happening with those families, with those students, and what else can we do to help and support. So our school-based team meeting is very strong, and we're on top of it, we hope. And we're just go, go, go. And it's paying off, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, it's really fun to see the growth that's happened in a lot of the kids, and seeing where they're coming and, you know, how they really love to come to school, and the number of adults that they see as trusted people in their life. So
it's a good feeling. So because of all the stuff that we've gone through with you, those are our 3 goals. We want to make sure that, you know, the kindness matters. Opening a door for someone matters. Giving someone a smile when you're walking past them matters, because you could change someone's day completely just by saying hello or having a smile. And we do a lot of messaging through our morning announcements around how can you be kind, what are some kindness deeds that have been done throughout the week, and we acknowledge them every Friday. Our second goal is to increase academic performance in literacy and numeracy by putting in whatever strategies, skills that we need to build upon. We try to do that as a school team and utilize our PLC time, our NID time, and make sure that that is connected and consistent throughout the year. And then, of course, embedding Indigenous ways of knowing throughout the school day. So looking at this is our literacy learning inventory, and we've started at grade 1 because we want to follow, because next year will be grade 2, so we'll be able to follow this cohort over. So if you're looking at the screen on your left-hand side, you'll see all of the students in grade 1 and where they're sitting. And then on the right-hand side, it's our Indigenous students in grade 1. So we have 3 classrooms of grade 1s. There's 11 Indigenous students in those 3 classrooms, and 3 to 4 students. So when you see a lot of red, and that's pretty much due to 3 to 4 students that weren't ready in the spring to show or demonstrate what they know. So we have to figure out a way before the end of the year to see how can they demonstrate what they know. How do we get them to demonstrate letter sounds? What's their oral language like? So I think we're almost there. We have a lot of kids that have kind of just opened up, and now we can.
In the last sort of probably since spring break, we're seeing a real big growth in some of our younger learners.
Yeah. So we'll be able to follow that cohort right through the next year until they hit grade 7.
This is our FSA that we've started having a look at. On the left is, or the top one is from 2023-24, and then from this year. So we're seeing some really nice growth in the literacy. There's some is coming along there. Our grade 4s did do some groups this year, some literacy groups together, and they're coming. There's still a lot of work to do. Our grade 7 is about on par where it is. And what we're finding with we haven't got the Indigenous or the designated for this year yet, because last year Glenn gave us the data. This year we haven't been able to dig in and go through each of the data individually yet. We haven't had time to do that, but we'll get that done for our summer festival. We know that there's lots of work to do with the numeracy. In particular, we find that the students, if you're looking at the data, if they're given a straight question, they're pretty good at being able to answer the straight questions. When it's embedded in a word problem, we still need lots of work in that area there. So
trying to build that common language.
Student learning surveys. So this one, again, feeling like they belong. That was one that was, we're seeing a nice growth in their feeling like they belong. and solving problems peacefully, and learning to care for their mental health. It was interesting. When we did the student learning survey last year and we got our data back, one of the things we found is that we were doing a lot of our mental health stuff in the spring, and they'd already done their student learning survey. So we were like, okay, well, let's backtrack it because they need it earlier. And we've been doing it all year this year, and that sort of came, you can see the results. They're feeling a lot better about those types of things as well.
So that would be the kindness matters, and then hopefully next year, whole school with the open parachute.
We did the social emotional learning survey in 2023, and then we took these 3 questions and then did that with the grade 3 to 7s again this year. And really interesting, we found it we got 89% of them who know how to calm down when they're angry, because we talk a lot about that. But when we looked at it, they didn't know how to relax when they were nervous or worried. So they've got a lot of the same strategies, but they're not seeing how to transfer them, and that's one of the areas that we need to do. The one where I have at least one adult that I trust in the school, a lot of them were actually writing on the paper. Got 4+, 5+, which was really nice to see. And I think there was all of the things. There were 2 students who came out. No, I don't have anyone. And it's not bad out of 400 students, and they were both grade 7. So
A little bit of attitude.
A little bit of.
They're ready to go. This was supporting student in literacy, so we have many things on the go. UFly has been huge with our primary classes, and we have had intermediate classroom teachers that have now taken that on as well, and we've had the district team in to help and support UFly within our school. We have literacy groups with our grade 5 and 5-6 classes, collaboration blocks, scheduling so that there's time for teachers to collaborate and to build programs. So we are planning for that. We did a little bit this year, a lot last year, but it all depends on how you schedule things. So we're going to try and utilize more of that collaboration time next year. And of course, our PLC time to collaborate and plan for student interventions and instructional plans and strategies. So we utilize our PLC time to its fullest and try to build that common language, because when a child is trying to make sense of what does that mean, the staff really need to use that same language from classroom to noon hours to EAs, so that the kids know what they're actually talking about. And it's not like, well, what do you mean? So we've been working a lot with building language in all the different areas. So our Indigenous learning, you can see there's been a lot of things happening. That's gardening, that's happening with our Indigenous gardens to the side. And we have 2 wonderful people that come from the Malahat. One is their gardener who comes down and helps and plants and talks to kids about the Indigenous plants. And the other one is a parent from our school who, will come in and just get kids helping and supporting and building those gardens. So the kids worked really hard, and it's beautiful. So I encourage you, if you're out in our way, to please come and take a look. Every month we have elders, guests come into Bonner to share their gifts with all our children. We're very fortunate to have Kara, Joyce, and Olivia Niger to help and support the building, those strong connections between the Malahat and the school and the other Indigenous communities. And once a year, this Bonner staff attends a meet and greet with a Malahat Nation and their families to continue to strengthen that relationship between the home and school, because it's important. And we've seen more families come into Bonner this year than any time ever, which is really positive, and we're happy to see that. And they come in and they'll ask questions, which is what we want them to do. Community and other connections. We have grandparents that come and volunteer in classrooms, library, on field trips. We have Roots of Empathy. There's our little baby who's been coming in all year. We have a different baby this year though, right?
Yeah, 2 different babies.
Yes, 2 different babies. We have Movember every year. It's a huge hit. And there's all different types of mustaches that come out, sparkly, long ones, short ones, that's great.
Rainbow one.
Rainbow ones. Jump rope for heart is just coming up. We have our event tomorrow. And there's lots of skippers were out today and putting together their routines, which was nice. And in the fall, we have Tour de Rock and Cups for cancer and Terry Pops, of course, that we, the kids really get involved and we build a lot of community around that piece. Diversity, we make sure that all the different cultures are represented in our school. Usually at the beginning of the year, we go through and try to figure out who are our new students and do they have a different cultural background that we can help and bring forward throughout the school year. So that's always a nice thing to do. And, how do you build acceptance and how do you build the teamwork? Having kids understand each other and work together. So we do a lot of that community school building and through various activities and morning messages. We usually put out, it's Asian History Month or Diwali, Diversity Orange Shirt Day. So there's lots of things that we can talk about throughout the school year. So moving forward, keeping our 3 goals in mind, over the year we've been pondering these questions. Yes, does the FESL directly support our priority learners? Yes, we do, because we always look to our goals to see, are we on the right track? The second one, how do we address student learning? By introducing hall passes, because we saw that a lot of the kids would just wander. And we're like,
I need to go to the bathroom.
Like,
And they'd be
get a
back.
drink of water, go in and out. So the hall passes were amazing, and we borrowed that idea from Kelsey. And used it as when you get to Kelsey, you'll need to use them anyway. So let's start now. And it's really good because it's keeping the kids in the classroom, whether they're sitting there learning through osmosis or they're sitting there doing the work, they're in the classroom. And that was the biggest thing. Get them out of the hallways, get them, from hanging out at the water fountain, break them of that habit. Tier 1 interventions of the WITS program and kindness initiatives to help regulate students. We've been using the random acts of kindness and then open parachute next year. How do we refine and continue to change? Well, the EA schedules that were created, we try to group the kids so that the EAs could go take a break and then have groups of kids be working on literacy groups while they were helping each other take those breaks. And then also, how do we push in with our LA and resource times during those literacy times in the classrooms? New priorities or focus areas, definitely smaller groups, push-ins with our LA and resource, and creating the literacy groups across the grades, because we know we've had pockets of it this year. Next year, we're going to go right across the whole school, and the staff are on board, which is really exciting. And then feedback from students and families, they're growing, and we see their self-regulation improving, and we know what we're doing is we're on the right path, because we see it, we hear it.
And it's trying to find those kiddos that we've had for a few years, and when you've had a really rough day, and and it's like, okay, but look at so-and-so. Look at where they were when they came in, and look at where they're at now. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then what about this one? And this, they're up to here now. And so really looking at the focus on the growth that we're seeing in all of ours, and having that, teaching all of our teachers as well, that each of our kids are individuals but need to be responded to differently, especially when they're heightened. And so it's been really good watching the growth in that area as well.
Yeah. It's been a really good year this year. So, come celebrate our story with us. We have lots happening. You'll see little chicks in the basket there with our grade 7s sitting around the carpet.
And grade 2 classroom. The grade 2s are in their desk,
yeah.
But the grade 7s came down, and the grade 2s explained to them what had happened and gave them the, they were the teachers for the grade 2s, which was brilliant.
Yeah, so we have lots going on in our building every day, and every day is never the same. There are we've had lots of tears, lots of laughter, lots of fun, and by students and staff. So we're I think, a really neat, unique school with lots of diversity, lots of needs, but it's happening and we're really proud of it. Yeah. That's our story.
Oh, where's our
Oh,
girls?
oh,
Where's the girls?
The girls.
The movie?
Yes, the movie.
But very, very short. So this year we really wanted to sort of step back and get some of our kids to step up to do some more of the leadership pieces. One of the pieces was having kids lead our assemblies. So Opdish got September, and at the end of the September one, I said, okay, that's your last assembly. And we pulled in a couple of our grade 7s and said, hey, would you guys like to do this? And they're like, sure. And then, you know, we've had them doing it, and it's really funny because one of them was away, and I'm like, okay, he's away. What do you think we can get to step up to? Well, I'll step up, says that, you know, and so they're up there, and it's really neat watching the difference with the students when the kids are leading the assembly as well. And then the other one is our announcements. We have announcements every morning, and instead of one of us doing the announcements, it's moved across to the different students started with some of our grade 7s, and it's moved down to our grade 6s and 5s.
Right.
And these two are the two that are doing it this week.
Yeah, and they have a message to share.
This is A to Z Kids Rock, the station where kids count. Antha June and Antha Caitlin. This is A to Z Kids Rock, the station where kids count. Antha June and Antha Caitlin. Live from you this morning's announcements. We like doing the announcements because it makes me feel powerful. My voice projects over the whole school. It makes me feel brave. Aitsapka. Aiksaksa.
These were just two that just came at the end of the announcements. We were like, so what do you guys like to do this? And just when June got said, it makes me feel brave.
Oh, yeah.
It
was
was
powerful.
Yeah. So
Very powerful. And there are shy ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's us.
Thank you very much. Question, Mr. Thorne.
I'm amazed at how you've taken the data and used that and focused on things like FESL. Those are the things that I love to hear because I can understand data. And when I see a breakdown like that, you know, all of the schools in our district just never cease to amaze me. But I've watched, when I go there, I watched when they had Hulkamino. And the kids would kind of, that's so when, and I like that. Because they're saying, I hope you're having a good day, Elder. And it makes me feel good. But to see what I've seen from both these school presentations, I'm going to go home tonight with a big smile. Because you've shown me things that highly impress, and most of us here, we never had that growing up. You know, you were either academic or you were something else. But when I see how you've taken the data and you're advancing each individual child, that is something to be proud of. And I'm really proud of being in this district, because I think this is probably the most caring, understanding, and futuristic community anywhere on Vancouver Island. And I may be biased, but I don't care.
Trustee Suits.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to say that I love how much care and attention you place on priority learners and their growth. Really, really applaud you for that. And then secondly, also similarly, that you also place as one of your major goals, emphasis on kindness as well. As a form of emotional intelligence, it's an important form of intelligence like all the other forms, so applaud you for that. So,
Trustee Schmidt.
First of all, thank you. Every time I walk into your building, whether it's my one role or my trustee role, you guys have always been honest with me, and I think that's what I always take away when I come into your building. So I just want you to both to know how much I appreciate you and the work you do for kids. I also appreciate the particular attention you put to children in youth and care. As you know, that is one thing that's very near and dear to my heart. But I really appreciate the comment of the follow-up care after in the school, because I think that's the one thing that always gets lost is, well, they're not in care anymore, but they still need. And so I just want you to know that that really touched me when you said that, so thank you. And I also want to thank you for being honest with your stretches as well as your strengths. I know that your school is very busy. You know, I've been there a fair amount, and I just want to thank you. Thank you for looking at all the kiddos as individuals and addressing their needs as individuals, and how to do things for all kids. And so just thank you for all the work you've done, and I'm sure continue to do. And I just look forward to great things continuing there. So thank you.
Thank you. We have to say a huge thank you to our staff and community, because they're a big part of it.
Trustee Strachan.
Yeah, you know, I think the board's thought a lot. We constantly think about Bonner because of the transition piece. And whenever I ask about it, I ask Trustee Schmidt about it because I know she's there as one of her schools. And I always hear positive things. But I'm curious from you, how do you feel it's going? Do you think that transition's moving well? Is it difficult for the staff?
I think the transitions is going well. When we had K to 7, we were a very full building, and it was hard to get to every learner. It was definitely harder. We didn't have the space to move into groups. We didn't have space for students that needed space and time to regulate. We just didn't have that, and because it was a full building. So at K to 7, we were reaching almost 500 kids when we were K to 7. So it was really, really tight. So to have that transition happen and will become a 3 to 7 will allow, every year we've seen space open up, and we're able to do small groups with the adults and people even that come in from community. To have the space, to have the gifts be shared, it's just been what do you call it, a changer.
Game changer.
Thank you.
One of the really rooms that's been brilliant for us, so if you know Bonner, most of our classrooms are in the atrium. We have the lower atrium and the upper atrium, and in the lower atrium, one of the rooms is our Indigenous room, and it's where Kara is, and it's where Olivia is, and the kids just come and go. And although it started as that, when you look at the kids that are coming and going, there's all kinds of kids that are coming and going. But, some of the times when some of our kiddos are having a rough day, they know they can just go in there. They have a safe space. They have a quiet space if the classroom's too much. And it's really nice that it's right in the middle of the learning. So they're not going far.
That's great. Thanks for your leadership on that, because any kind of change like that's tough on the community and the kids and the employees. So thanks for your leadership. Sounds like there's some silver linings you're finding in all of that too. So that's great. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you very much for coming. As I said, this is one of our most enjoyable times of the month, and we wish you well in the future. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna run fast.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good meeting, y'all.
Thank you. Thanks, Del.
Wish my son would say he loved to read. Just like with the original Folsom Rock Solid. Rock Solid.
Where we have business. Yeah, great. Yeah. Business and operations, Mr. Santos.
Thank you, Chair. I have two items for information. They're both financial for the board. There's a lot of numbers on the screen. I just make them as large as I can here. Thank you. So the first thing I wanted to review is the revenue projection to the end of the year. This projection was prepared with information as of April 30th, 2025, so 2 months out from the end of the year. There is really one change to note from the last time I presented to the board on revenue, and you'll see the very top line where the provincial grant is now $259,000 in surplus over budget. The February count has now been received, and it was higher than budgeted. The May count still remains outstanding, but is looking very positive as well. So with that change, the revenues are now projected to exceed budget by about $594,000, mainly due to that $259,000 swing on the February count. Looking at salaries, as we get closer to the end of the year, one of the areas where we typically start to see a little bit of surplus building, and it's due to when somebody goes off on leave as a teacher who maybe had a higher salary and the replacement coming in at a lower salary. We're starting to see an underspend on our teacher salary budget by about $275,000, and that number is just tending to creep up a little bit as we move towards the end of the year. That's still extremely close on a $44.3 million budget. Over a bit on EAs countering that, and then there's some over and unders there. But the big one is that the casual replacement, this is the actual cost of the replacement. It's not necessarily the amount of absenteeism. It just means this is who we're actually able to replace, is under budget by about $388,000. So that number's been holding around that number for the last 2 or 3 months. And when the board adopted the budget for 25-26, reduced that budget by $100,000, hoping that that trend would continue, and it is continuing into the end of the year. So overall, on salaries, we're under by about $658,000. With that comes corresponding benefit reduction or underspend by $127,000. And then rolling down here a little bit, we've got a couple of budgets that are expected to be a bit over, rentals and leases being one, dues and fees. So we hadn't anticipated having a lease for the international student program when we originally built the budget, so there will be some trending over budget on that number. And utilities still appear to be strongly coming in under budget for this year. Up until February, it was quite warm. February was cold, but then it seemed to have stabilized again. So our utilities are looking quite good there. So when we add all those numbers up, we see an underspend on our expenditures projected by about $908,000. And when you combine with the 500-ish in revenues, this surplus projection has moved from about 1.3 to 1.5, mainly due to the February count. So holding really no other variance other than the February count as we move into the end of the year. Were there any questions on that?
Thank you. So this is really looking really good. With the underspend in salaries and employee benefits, will that have an impact in terms of what the ministry gives us next?
No, it doesn't. It's purely based on per pupil. What this will do is, if in fact this comes true, the board will have a little additional surplus at the end of the year over what was originally projected through the budget cycle. So that's why they will claw back.
Not to do with this budget line or piece here, but I've heard that the student rate funds per student is increasing. The BC government is announcing an increase to 12,000 something per student. Have you heard?
The per pupil rate is now $9,015 in the province, and that has gone up from the previous year, but that was for salary adjustments that were outside of the grant previously, so there was no new funding to move it from 8,900 and some 8,980 or 8,970 to the 9,015. Overall, it's about 13,600 per student when you take the total grant, so you may see that number somewhere in the media. I think you would see some numbers. There was an event at the legislature, and the minister had come out and talked about the increase in funding. But it doesn't address anything that's inflationary. It's purely been for the salary increments over the last number of years.
Okay.
So nothing new that we expect.
I went, doing.
Unless the event at the legislature was very effective in being subjective to increased funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
The second document that's here is the 3-year financial plan, and this ties into the board's strategic priorities 2025, 2020, 30. It's a document here for information that we update every May. You'll have seen the last page before through the budget cycle, but I'll just quickly show you what this document is, and then we'll be submitting it to the ministry. It doesn't require approval. So this is our Made in Cowichan template, which became very popular around the province because it's essentially a 16-ish page financial report that communicates a multi-year position for the board. So the first thing we do is we describe our budget timelines, the process that the board goes through in December through to May. I don't need to read it, you've lived it. and it's all here to show the public the transparency around how the board developed their budget. We talk a little bit about the different funding types, which may not be clear to the public that the board operate with an operating fund, special purpose fund, and capital funds. So there's the 3 buckets. Operating can move into special purpose or into capital, but you can't go the other way. So we list here the types of things that are in the operating fund, what a special purpose fund is, for instance, annual facilities grant or classroom enhancement fund or community link or learning improvement fund, funds that are familiar to the trustees. And then we try to talk about the priorities and how the budget supports them. So we do this on a 1-pager, how finance fits into the strategic priorities. And for instance, individual and collective well-being, we would talk about ensuring that the budget supports the needs of diverse learners and supports wellness initiatives for staff and students. So just a couple of ways that the budget supports the board's strategic priorities: caring for place, support for climate action projects, for instance, which aligns with that strategic priority. And this again is just a simple one-pager. Every district prepares this report differently. Multi-year planning, we started to look at a declining enrollment trend beginning to present itself here. And so this would be the updated enrollment that was used during the budget cycle. So from these numbers, we generate our projections on the financial estimates and on the staffing levels. And when you see a yellow bar in the middle here, I appreciate that's not that clear on the screen, but where you see a yellow bar, it's still estimated that's the current year because we don't have the May count in yet. And then we have our orange bars being our 3 years that we're projecting forward. But you can see where it peaked in 23-24 and this year began to decline, and we expect that to sort of slowly continue. We talk a bit about the base per pupil. Oh, here it is, $8,915. It's gone up by $100, which is simply brought in the previous year's grant items that were outside of the formula. So last year, the board knew that you had collective agreements that were going to, or this year, were going to be 2%, and then a 1% came in when the provincial economy was better than had been expected, and so staff members actually got 3%. The first grant gave them funding on 2%, and the 1% sat on the side. Now it gets rolled in the per pupil, and it makes it look like per pupil. It's still the same pot of money. So it's somewhat difficult to follow sometimes. So we're not projecting at this time because bargaining hasn't concluded, and we're not aware of any wage increases. So for the purposes of this projection and assuming that there is a wage increase, it would be funded by government. We've held $9,015 for the next couple of years. We're also sort of stabilizing the international student program at around 150 FTE moving forward in our projections. And then under staffing, if enrollment goes down, so does staffing. So we're showing what we would project those numbers to be. For instance, if we were to drop 200 students, we may drop 10 teachers. So you'll see that the difference between the 25, 26 and the 26, 27, for instance, on the top line. If that's not good for our audience, but there, maybe that's a little clearer. So we try to project out what those numbers could look like going forward from a staffing perspective and what those changes are. And at this point, we're only looking at the effects that are formula-based per collective agreement on teachers. The board hasn't made any decisions around EA levels, for instance, being different or clerical levels being different, but we know that class size and composition language will drop a few divisions if we drop enrollment, so we project that forward. And then the next page is just really to say that on salary expenses, bargaining is underway and there hasn't been a publicly communicated framework. So for the purposes of this estimate, we've used 0%, but we still have to move people through the grid steps. So that's included here. Substitute costs, we're talking about how they're beginning to stabilize. This chart does tell us quite a bit. I mean, wage increases are here as well. But look at the difference between 1920 and the 24-25 year, for instance. There's $2.2 million of cost pressure that's come through on substitute costs in the operating budget. So happy to see that number beginning to stabilize. It has been a significant budget pressure over the last number of years, and so we're showing that it's stabilized and assuming that we've now reached a new trend for the future. Yeah. And then the last part is really what would it look like if we're right on enrollment? The funding formula remains the same. There are no wage increases that we know of, and inflation stabilizes at 2% and has to be applied to all expenditures that are non-wage related. So we do include some increases in the benefit rates based on the prior year's increases. So this is where we start to look at the actual forecast here. So the way we show this document is we look at the 23-24 as an actual year. That was our year end that concluded last June. 24-25, that's our current year's budget. 25-26, the board has adopted that budget. And so what might 26-27 and 27-28 look like? How long would the surplus last at this trend, for instance? So you can see the grant on the top line going down. And that's due to declining enrollment, and that is actually using the funding formula and assuming that we continue on with funding protection. Then we look at our other revenues there throughout the investment income being down, interest rates continuing to drop. We drop down our teachers for declining enrollment, but hold all other wages pretty stable. In employee benefits, we increase slightly year over year throughout the projection. Then we apply 2% to all services and supplies, sort of on an inflation rate. And it doesn't necessarily mean the board would increase those budgets because those may be optional budgets to increase. It could mean doing with less rather than increasing those budgets. But for the purposes of a projection, we add in 2%. So then we see where our operating expenses would land compared to our operating revenues at the top line, and we end up with shortfalls. So in the center column, you'll see that the board did balance this year's budget with $2.354 million. Next year, if there's no funding of inflation and we budget for full inflation, the board would need 3.5 and then 4.5 the year after, and would quickly run out of surplus, assuming if we had $1 million projected surplus at the end of every year on the $100 million budget. So yeah, I think this is always seems to be moving along 1 year at a time as we get through 1 year and usually finish a little bit better than expected. So I've just shown a projected surplus of 1.5 million, but I didn't use that in here because it hasn't actually materialized yet. But that 1 million could be 1.5 and then move everything along a little bit. So this is a document we'll be submitting out to the ministry. that we're required to have every year.
Any questions?
So the surplus, so we go into deficit potentially as a projection for 2027, 2028, and that's on the basis of wiping out the contingency? Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Yeah, and that would be, that's assuming no other adjustments are made. I mean, this is just take the current budget, apply those roll forward, apply 2%, and maybe inflation isn't 2%, or maybe we don't need to adjust utilities because the budget's sound, or you know, there may not be. If there's a number of assumptions here.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know, we don't have a crystal ball, so we make best guesses as to what it could look like.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. I know the last 3 or 4 years that eventually we're going to be low on money. And that's why I caution some of the new members that come on as trustees to make sure you investigate things before we decide to spend here and there. Because we made it through this time, but I think we're going to, thanks to Jason, what we're going to have to mind our P's and Q's in the very, very near future. I worry, I constantly worry about students first.
Thank you. I echo what Mr. Thorne says. Jason, thank you very much for being on top of our books and allowing us to sleep and not worrying that there's going to be any big surprises. Thank you very much for your work. We appreciate it.
That's what I had to share.
And with that being, there's no other business. We have a motion to adjourn, please. Trustee Schmidt, Trustee Souza, favor, thank you very much.